Which power is greater, the power of righteousness or the power of evil? In today's session on the Proverbs, we're going to dovetail into our lesson from the parable on Tuesday, the parable of the wheat and the tares, or the wheat and the weeds, where Jesus reminds us that until the end of the world, both the righteous and the wicked will grow together. So what does that mean that the world will look like at the end? We started to touch on this, and let's try to finish it up today, not only referencing that parable, but also our proverb of the day, which comes from Proverbs 14. That is, the house of the wicked shall be overthrown, but the dwelling place of the righteous shall flourish. If the wicked and the righteous grow together until the end of the world, until the judgment, does that mean that the world will be equally righteous and equally wicked? Or will one dominate the other? Many times we have an impression that wickedness is what is dominating, and that it's going to dominate. And there are even theologians and preachers who have taught such, that wickedness will dominate till the end of the world, and it will only become greater and greater as the righteous become weaker and weaker. But that sort of runs contrary, I'm afraid, to the real tenor of the scriptures. For which is powerful, more powerful, righteousness or wickedness? Which is greater, the sin of Adam or the resurrection of Christ? We know that the power of the resurrection is what changes men and women and children. It changes our lives, it changes our families, it changes entire societies. It's changed the course of history since the time of Christ. So will the world be equally righteous and equally wicked at the end? Well, not according to our proverb today. God cuts off the wicked, but he allows the righteous to prosper. When Isaiah looks at the end of the world, he says, the knowledge of the Lord will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. Jeremiah reminds us that in the days of the New Testament, the days of the New Covenant, that God will take away our heart of stone and replace it with a heart of flesh. He will write his commandments and his laws in our hearts and give us the power and ability to do them. In his last commission to the disciples, he tells them to go, make disciples of the nations, and I will be with you. Not merely preach to them, not merely teach them, but baptize them, instruct them, bring them into the family and the house of God. And when St. John, in his beautiful vision of heaven, sees some of the end result of the fantastic work of the death and resurrection of Christ, he says, I looked at the throne and I saw a great multitude, 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands, a great multitude which no man can number. You see, it is not possible that Christ would die only to be the firstborn of a few brethren. No. St. Paul says he's the firstborn among many, a great multitude which cannot be numbered. As time goes on, righteousness becomes more righteous, even as wickedness becomes more wicked. And sometimes that's why we have the perception that wickedness is prevailing, but it is not. As the gospel continues to go forth and change the lives of men and women and children, their families, their neighbors, their churches, their societies, we will come to a day, we may not live to see it, but we will come to a day when Christ will reign until he has put all enemies under his feet. The day when the nations are discipled to him, and when the knowledge of the Lord will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. And we will no longer say to our neighbors, know the Lord, for all will know him, says the prophet, from the least unto the greatest. God bless you today.